Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski. Over 500 years ago, His Majesty Zygmuntus, King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania, attended the suspension ceremony of the giant bell known as Zygmunt. In 1521, Poland and Lithuania constituted the largest and most successful country in Europe. To mark the anniversary, Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda arrived in Krakow to meet his Polish counterpart, Andrzej Duda. The president of Lithuania's visit to Poland represents a tidal shift in the domestic policy of the country. The heritage of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, a country where Poles, Lithuanians, Ruthenians, Germans, and even Scots, and dozens of other nationalities lived and worked together, was inconvenient, to say the least, for 20th century's nationalistic leaders of Lithuania or Ukraine. Recent events have brought these nations closer and more ready to consider a rapprochement. King Zygmunt I was Grand Duke of Lithuania from 1506 and from 1507 King of Poland. On the bell's mantle, one can spot the Lithuanian symbol of chase and the Polish white eagle, both allied countries that Zygmunt ruled wisely and with great success. Sunday, July 11th of 1943 is known in Poland as Bloody Sunday. On this day, thousands of Ukrainian nationalists began a synchronized attack on their Polish neighbors. Only 78 years ago, over 100 churches were surrounded and attacked. The aggressors chose this time, as this is when entire families attend Sunday service. At least 10,000 people were murdered in unspeakably brutal ways, and many more followed. Poles still remember the innocent victims of these crimes and demand that Ukraine at least provide them with a decent burial. Polish authorities assume that only 5% of the burials of the 100,000 Volhynia massacre victims have been identified so far. Ukrainian nationalists are in complete denial about the tragedy. They reject the Ukrainian Uprising Army's responsibility for organizing and perpetuating this crime and claim it was revenge for the Polish state's misgivings before World War II. The order to murder Poles was given by Ukrainian Uprising Army Colonel Dmytro Klaczkiewski, nom de guerre Quim Savour. We should carry out a great action to liquidate the Polish element. With the departure of the German army, this opportune moment should be used to eliminate the entire male population between the ages of 16 and 60. We cannot lose this fight, and Polish forces must be weakened at any cost. Forest villages and villages located next to forest massives should disappear from the face of the earth. The crimes were committed with exceptional cruelty. The attacks happened on Sunday, yes, to be able to surprise as many Poles as possible in churches. However, not all Ukrainians were willing to participate in the Volhynia massacre. Many of them sacrificed their lives to defend their Polish neighbors. To commemorate these tragic events on the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, Poles celebrate a national day of remembrance for victims of genocide. We honor the memory of our ancestors, relatives, and neighbors, tens of thousands of whom had died, and over 250,000 had fled, leaving their native villages and towns forever. Poles native to these lands were targets of ethnic cleansing in the southeastern region even in pre-war Poland. The proper burial of Volhynia massacre victims is still a burning issue in relations between Poland and Ukraine. Russian propaganda is exploiting this on a wide scale, yet Kiev is reluctant to solve the issue and allow Polish archaeologists to find the victims' bodies and lay them to rest in a proper grave. And Gazeta Polska Weekly is the largest conservative news publication in Poland. Its readers can learn even more about Polish issues by joining Gazeta Polska clubs, which operate worldwide. After last year's gap due to the virus, this year members of the various clubs met in Sulejów, central Poland. Among government officials who came to speak there were Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, Minister of Education and Science Przemysław Czarnek, and many other figures of Polish public life. Speaking to the Prime Minister was a pinnacle point of this year's meeting. Mateusz Morawiecki stressed that Gazeta Polska club members cultivate traditional Polish values.
Kiedy spotykam się z wami,
We meet quite often and talk mainly about the future. We are not looking back, but we try to figure out how to build Poland to be a better country in 10 or 20 years. We want Poland to be as great as we all dream of.
na Polska ma wyglądać.
Tomasz Sakiewicz, the editor-in-chief of Gazeta Polska and chairman of the clubs, Ryszard Kapuściński, years ago started actively supporting the reform movement in Hungary. Gazeta Polska clubs also organize annual trips from Warsaw to Budapest. Several thousand Poles attended the Hungarian National Festival. For this activity, they received the Knight's Cross of the Hungarian Order. The Hungarian ambassador also attended the meeting in Sulejów.
Dużo takich sympatycznych.
I saw many touching signs of Polish-Hungarian friendship. These people have worked for that for decades. They even engage others, such as students and scouts.
Przyjaźni.
Thanks to the broadcast of the event provided by the albikla.com social network, people could also take part in the event virtually. The Gazeta Polska clubs came up with the idea of launching their own social media network that is free from censorship. To Sulejów in central Poland came members of the almost 500 Gazeta Polska clubs scattered around the world. And a Warsaw hip-hop artist has become the first Polish musician to get onto Billboard's global chart. Michał Matczak, who is better known by his stage name Mata, has already racked up over 200 million YouTube views in his short career. His hit single, Kiss Cam, has amassed over 16 million views in the last 2 weeks. The song has now become the first Polish-language song to chart on the Billboard Global Chart when it debuted at number 198. Mata is also the first Polish artist to make it onto the chart, which was topped by Ed Sheeran with Bad Habits this week. Mata reached the chart by having his song streamed 10.3 million times outside of America in the week ending on the 1st of July, according to MRC data. This was made up of 6 million views of the official video and 4.3 million listens on streaming services. Only 18 of the top 200 tracks had more video views than streams. The 21-year-old hit the big time in Poland in 2019 with the songs Schodki and Pato Inteligencja, both of which have 51 million views of the official video on streaming sites so far. Mata also cleaned up at the Pop Killers award show, winning Discovery of the Year and Single of the Year in both the Popular Vote and Critics Awards. And as always, thanks for tuning in this evening, and have a great week ahead.